This is the Herdline News.
Well, Cam Newton needs a new team, and the Patriots have an unproven starting quarterback. But it's not looking like Cam Newton will be heading up to New England anytime soon. According to Joseph Person of The Athletic, offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels wasn't necessarily high on Cam when he had discussions with the Panthers about their head coaching vacancy.
Yeah.
Now, a few days ago, there was a report that Cam Newton was not willing to accept a backup role. Ian Rappaport just reported that Cam wants to be a starter, but with no starting job available, he has not ruled out taking a backup job in the right situation.
Oh.
That's actually significant news to me. I think I've been saying I think that the best situation for Cam Newton and for Pittsburgh is for Cam Newton to go to the Steelers. There's not going to be some big wave for Cam Newton to all of a sudden become the starter just because he goes there, and their backup situation is a disaster. Yeah. And we talked about what Glazer said yesterday. Ben's never really been a workout warrior, and he's coming off a significant injury. We don't know what Ben is going to be, and if he does happen to get injured again, do you really want to be in that same situation that you were in last year? Because they're always competitive. They were in the playoff conversation last year with Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph. I think Pittsburgh is a great situation for Cam Newton, but I also like that he is willing to take a backup role, not because I think he is a backup quarterback. I think he's a starter, and he has a lot of great football left in him. But two things can be true. You can be a starter and the market can be saturated, which is the situation. There's a lot of teams. Everyone has their starting quarterback, and if you don't have your starting quarterback necessarily like the Patriots or the Jags, you're kind of in a conversation of what's your long-term plan anyway, so it might not be beneficial for them to bring in Cam Newton. And backup situations can work out very well for you. We saw what happened with Teddy Bridgewater and Ryan Tannehill.
Especially no camps, offensive lines are rusty, quarterbacks get hit more.
It's a temporary situation. Don't look at it as the future of your career. It's a temporary situation that's going to set you up for years to come. We've seen just last year that be a successful strategy for two quarterbacks. So the Bengals have high hopes that Joe Burrow will be the guy to turn the franchise around. And even though they took calls on offers for the first overall pick, they were always committed to keeping it to draft their quarterback. Bengals director of college scouting, Mike Potts, said, "We weren't moving off of that pick. I could have told you that a long time ago." And Duke Tobin, their director of player personnel, said, "We felt great about him and the fit for us and for him being here. It was, in our opinion, a good year to have the pick if you were to have it. To have a player like Joe is valuable to us. We feel great about it. Now we have to guide the new players through the offseason." Dolphins general manager Chris Greer did confirm that they spoke to the Bengals about the top choice, but it just appears that the Bengals never got an offer that moved them enough to consider moving off of the top pick, which means that really, to me, the Dolphins were not willing to give up all of those picks or players to get Joe Burrow when they had Tua that they felt strongly about at 5. And they didn't end up moving off of a 5 to get Tua, which is the best case scenario for the Dolphins if that's who they really wanted all along.
Yeah.
I mean, the conversation would have been totally different, obviously, if Tua hadn't been injured, whether he was the number one overall pick.
If Burrow wasn't from Ohio, maybe it's different. But Ohio, it's like LeBron. Ohio kid, bad organization. He's available. People like him. Cincinnati was trapped is the wrong word because Burrow's talented, but sometimes you're just best taking the local kid. If you think it's a draw on talent, like Cleveland Cavaliers. If you thought Melo and LeBron were tied, just take the local kid. You know, so if the local kid flourishes somewhere else, you'll never live that down. If the local kid fails, you can always say, well, Burrow. Everybody said he was number one, so...
Yeah, no one's going to judge Cincinnati if Burrow...
Right.
Well, I'll judge Cincinnati if it's Cincinnati's fault. But if Burrow, they put the pieces around him and he's not successful, no one's going to say you shouldn't have taken Joe Burrow, you should have taken Tua. But you're right. Even if Tua had not gotten injured, if Cincinnati still had the top pick, I don't necessarily know that they would have gone with Tua. I still think they would have gone with Burrow because of the Ohio tie and obviously the way that the season finished. So Jimmy Garoppolo took a lot of heat after the 49ers lost the Super Bowl this year, and his teammate, Richard Sherman, went on KNBR in San Francisco and defended his quarterback.
It's just barbershop talk. It's just something to have a topic. I think it's foolish. When you hear them blaming Jimmy, Jimmy doesn't play defense. We had a 10-point lead. We get the guy stopped in the game. I think, along with other leaders on the team, we would defend him vigorously because that had nothing to do with him.
I always thought it was brutal that we crushed Garoppolo because he missed one deep throw. It's like timeout. Mahomes had bad interceptions in the playoffs, didn't he? I thought the criticism of Garoppolo was so It was
He wasn't great. He went 3 of 11 for 36 yards and an interception.
He didn't have a great fourth quarter, but good God, it's his first starting year, and he gives you a lead against Patrick Mahomes entering the fourth in the Super Bowl?
No, I think it's incredibly unfair, and it's very panicky to think that he's not the quarterback of the future.
God, it's so...
But somebody's got to lose, and the team that loses, we're very critical of. That's how it goes. And you get to the big game, just big consequences to losing. I think it's kind of absurd, the idea that it was even a conversation about possibly moving off of him for Tom Brady. I mean, all we talked about all season long was how great the 49ers were, and they were for sure going to the Super Bowl, and they were by far the best team in the league, and they had an incredible season, and so did Jimmy G. I mean, they were in the Super Bowl, like you said, with a 10-point lead. So somebody's got to lose. That doesn't mean that it's, that you have to restructure everything. It comes down to one play sometimes. You make it or you don't. I don't think he's not the guy. I didn't love his decision-making, and he obviously did not have a great fourth quarter, but just give it a little more time. Let it simmer. Let the sauce simmer a little bit more.
Yep. Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line News.
I'll give you my AFC and my NFC predictions top of next hour. Steve Smith at the NFL Network. Ravens, Panthers, unbelievable career. Rival of Michael Irvin. He'll be joining us around the corner. Always interesting. Listen, Michael Lewis, who wrote my favorite sports book, Moneyball, The Big Short, The Blind Side. Michael Lewis, fascinating guy, great American writer. He'll be joining us last hour, too. I love guests like that. He's so smart. In the past, waiting for the last minute for Mother's Day, maybe you get away with it. Not this year. Limited windows, limited delivery time, 1-800-Flowers. Mother's Day is coming up this Sunday. Be prepared. Right now, roses, lilies, daisies, palms, whether it's all of those, all blooms from 1-800-Flowers, picked at their peak, shipped overnight, ensuring freshness and ensuring your mom's amazement. 1-800-Flowers also committed to safety for their team members and your family, so all deliveries are contactless. Limited time, limited order window. Do it before tomorrow.
Get the right guys in there, which he may have right now, and we will see. The Jets, this is a shocker. The Jets are actually a well-run organization. It was one of the best experiences I've ever had as a player. Now, Woody, the only thing Woody needs to do is he needs to stop listening to the market and the media.
Yeah.
If he does that and lets the football guys work, man, they can turn this thing around. They have a great opportunity, definitely now more than ever, because you got Tom Brady who's out the division. It's wide open. Maybe it's not wide open because the Buffalo Bills are so strong. I'm not sure.
Did you feel the New York Giants were well run?
Ooh, you put me in the spot right now. I did not.
Why?
I did not. I think they're great people. I think they're a great organization. But I don't think they're disruptive enough. I think they're there's a few organizations out there like the Chicago Bears, the New York Giants, even the Pittsburgh Steelers, who it's all about history. It's about who we were.
Yeah.
Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're great because they win. But they're rich in tradition. They're super successful in what they do. They don't have a lot of turnaround, great leadership. But when you're not winning, the Chicago Bears, the New York Giants, when you're not winning, you have to change things. You have to be able to shift a little bit. They want you to wear the same socks every single time. They don't want to change certain things. They want a certain guy, and I think that puts them in a box. When the game is changing every year, when the culture of the kid is changing every year, when the culture of the coach is changing every year. So I think, yes, they're great. They have great leadership, great people, but they're so rich in tradition, and they want to preserve that so much that it handicaps them from actually competing today. No, if that makes any sense.
No, Brandon, I think it's brilliant. This is, Brandon, your classic example. They live in a box. And when I'll give you an example. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. And so the University of Washington had a proud history. And I always argued they were trapped by it. Oregon Had no history. So Phil Knight went in and said, we're going to have 100 uniforms. We're going to be crazy. We're going to blow up the stadium. And Oregon had no history to be beholden to. And I think you're right. I think the Bears and the Giants and the Steelers sometimes, a lot of times, Brandon, they're trapped. They're absolutely trapped.